Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Ronsley. Today is episode 11, and we have a growth tactic in store for you. I have the Sydney Opera House in the background over there. Just an amazing time to record. I promised myself to record every day for the first month so that I'm ahead of time. And today we have a really important growth tactic, which is how to get a lead into your business, but not only that, to nurture that lead into a paying client. What is the process? How do we do that? How do we do it with artificial intelligence that makes it so quick and easy to do? I've done a few of these. They have been absolutely successful. So come, let's learn. Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to this podcast, my AI love affair. Consider this podcast your digital compass, guiding you through the labyrinth that is business growth using artificial intelligence. Running a business as a creative can sometimes be like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But what if you had a secret tool that could align all the colors for you? That is AI. It's like a master key unlocking multiple doors. Thanks for being here. Let's learn. All right, let's break this down. And if you see how this is working, I decided that I was going to make this podcast work irrespective of where I was on the planet. And if I could make recordings every single day, then this would be a sustainable podcast. So today we're talking about a growth tactic, which is super important. And I love doing these growth tactics because it not only layers a business principle, but it takes that business principle into something that you can actually execute. So it's probably never been a better time to be a business owner, to be honest, because the speed at which you can execute things is so quick these days, especially with artificial intelligence. All the things that it can actually do for you is kind of crazy. Something that I learned from an event that I spoke at recently. It was about a couple of months ago. It was in India. It was actually my first speaking gig in India. I've spoken all over the planet and always wanted to speak in my hometown of Goa, where I did a lot of my schooling. I got a chance to speak at this event, and two of the sessions that followed me, one of them was a gentleman who created a digital marketing course, how to be a digital marketer, and it was a 45-day course. It was this email sequence that layered different principles and ideas into the outcome of becoming a digital marketer. So he did a 45-day email sequence that helped people become digital marketers. And he took 2 million leads, believe it or not, through that sequence. And there was this girl that followed him, and she spoke about sensory language. And she spoke about how to use sensory language in our selling and how we buy based on how we sense the world. It was super fascinating. So the next day I decided to merge those two tactics. And this is what today is all about, is how do you create a lead magnet, which is super valuable. But with that lead magnet, you're creating a nurture sequence, and that nurture sequence taps into your audience's psychological behaviors, how they believe to see the world. And that's why the Inception episode number 2, is so important, because we cover how to analyze your audience and how to start this whole procedure off in the right way with analyzing who your audience are, who they believe they can trust, why they have these certain values, belief systems, frustrations, how to deal with them, how to deal with their problems. So that's all in episode 1. So to understand this growth principle, you're promising your audience a particular lead magnet, which you only deliver through an email nurture sequence that goes for a certain number of days. For example, I had 30 lessons to learn how to delegate your business to artificial intelligence. And I created another one that's a 20-day one, which was how these are 20 concepts and prompts that will allow you to learn more about artificial intelligence. So there is the promise that you deliver over a period of time. And that's why this growth tactic is so powerful. So let's talk about today. I'm going to first layer a few principles, just like every other growth tactic, and then talk about the steps. So the first thing I want you to keep in mind is your voice is really, really important. What is the outcome for your audience is also super important. And finally, focusing on delivering that result. So when I'm talking about personalization in particular for this growth tactic, I'm talking about personalizing your voice, personalizing the outcome for your audience, and then focusing on delivering that outcome, that result to your audience is the first principle. The second principle is consistency. Now, this is obvious, but it's really important to highlight it because if you're not consistent, none of this matters. And consistency is key. That's why I'm recording on a Saturday in a hotel room. And I think that's what I want to transport over to you is that consistency is super important. Creating a rhythm, making sure that you outline what that rhythm is. Now, for me, I decided that to do 3 episodes a week, I would have to be consistent in the way I recorded, and I would have to have templates and systems in place that would allow me to have this produced, developed, marketed, and done really well. My rhythm and my regular recurring rep is that I'm going to do a recording a day. Now, yesterday I took a flight and I didn't do my recording. So today I'm going to do 2 recordings. This is the first one. What are your consistent reps? What are your regular recurring reps? I will talk about this a lot. You will hear me use this term a lot. What are your regular recurring reps? What happens daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually that you have to just put in the calendar to make sure that they always happen? That's consistency. And principle number 3 is making sure that it's all value-driven content. Now, for this to happen, you first have to understand your audience. That's why it is so important that inception piece of episode 2, using AI to ideate your online business, is such an important episode. And that's why I started off with that growth tactic. So understanding who your audience is important to figure out what kind of value you're going to drive your people to, okay? And the second thing is that you want to give your readers or the people consuming your lead magnet wins, and you want to do them on a regular basis. So how can you create something that's super useful and they get wins regularly? I'll show you how to do that using AI, and you'll do that like super quick. But before that, I want to make sure that you do not make the mistake that I made, which is worrying about who is going to unsubscribe, trying to be everything to everyone, seeing an unsubscribe and feeling like, oh, they don't like me and it's got something to do with me. And I want you to know that everyone deals with this. And once you get practice, it doesn't matter anymore. Why would you want to waste your energy, time, and effort and your truth when you're speaking your truth? You want to speak your truth to the people that care about your truth. So worrying about who will unsubscribe is just a wasted effort. It is inbuilt probably into our lizard brain. And I kind of feel like we all as artists, entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, business owners need to look at that particular lizard brain reaction and rethink that. So get practice to know that it's not scary for people to not want to listen to us, which is totally fine. So there are 3 steps for you to execute this growth tactic. The first is planning, the second is creation, and the third is execution. Let's get into them. All right, let's start with step 1. And step 1 is all about planning. There is this great statement that I don't know who to credit it to, but the quote goes, if I had 4 hours to chop a tree, I would spend the first 3 hours sharpening the axe. And this is no different. This particular one, you really need to plan properly so that you can execute at speed. So the first thing I wanted to take into consideration when you're doing the planning is the funnel map. Where does this lead magnet and nurture sequence fit into the funnel of your audience's journey map? That is, when they get to know, like, and trust you, where exactly does the lead magnet fit? It usually does fit into the like and trust factor part. So people get to know you somehow, and then they want to know whether you can deliver, and they get to like you through your lead magnet, and then you nurture them for them to trust you, and then you can ultimately sell to them. The other thing in the planning phase you got to figure out is who it's for specifically, not business owners, right? That's not a niche actually. Who it's for, what is the outcome that particular audience is looking for? What is the number of days that you want to layer these different concepts and nurture the audience that has just gotten to who you are? How do you get them to trust you? And how many days do you need for that to happen? When you're planning this, you got to figure out how you're going to link email 1 to email 2 and email 2 to email 3. So what is the way that you can build from the previous email? And then finally, you want to also outline what is going to be in each email. For example, for me, I wanted to have homework. I wanted to have a recording. I wanted to introduce the topic. I wanted to give them clarity on the topic. I wanted to give them an idea on how to execute the topic, depending on which nurture sequence I was creating. That's step one, planning. Step two is creating. Now, in this step, you are creating a whole bunch of things, which I'll show you how to do really quickly using artificial intelligence. The first step is what is a list of topics that you're going to create and how to refine them and make sure that the topics are totally relevant. I use this particular method to create all the topics for this podcast as an example. The second thing you've got to do in the creation phase is what are the main sections of topics? So how do you break the topics down into different sections? What are the topics and how do you categorize them? And then once you have the category of topics, that's a list of topics, you then have to figure out what are the main sections within each of those topics. Whether you want to have homework, whether you want to have a case study within those topics, whether you want to have an example, whether you want to have steps, principles, whatever that is, what are the sections within each of those topics? And the third thing you want to create is each email. So first you have a list of topics, then you have the main sections that go into those topics and how those topics in general are categorized. And then finally, you're creating each email at speed, by the way, with your super signature at the end. Now, super signature is basically trying to help your audience guide them to the next step, whatever that is. If it is, hey, listen to my podcast. If you need further help, go and download another lead magnet. If you really want personalized help, get on a call with me. Or if you want a particular product that I have that delivers a particular outcome, then go click here. That's your super signature. It's going to be at the bottom of every email so that once your audience is at a stage where they're ready to buy from you, they know exactly where to go. Now let's look at step number 3, which is execution. In the execution phase, there are 3 things that I want you to focus on. The first is that what is the welcome email that they get in the execution? So once they finally go and get your stuff, what is the first email that they get? And what is the landing page for them to go and get that? The second step is to put all these emails into an automation and use an email database like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign. There are so many different ones that you can use, and you put all your emails into that automation, into a journey where when someone decides that they want the lead magnet from you, they get a welcome email. Following that, 24 hours later, they get the first email, which is the first lesson. 24 hours later, they get the next email, and so on. So they get the email every day. And the third step, very important for all of us artists out there, let people know that it exists. Put it everywhere. Let them know that you've created this thing that does this particular outcome. Okay? So those are the 3 steps, and let me show you how to execute them using prompts. So the first step I would love you to do using artificial intelligence is going into ChatGPT or any prompt-based system, whether you use Bard or anything else, and say, generate for me a list of content topics based on this particular audience that I have and this outcome that they want. Their fears are X, Y, Z. Their problems are A, B, C, and they want to get this result. Generate for me a list of relevant topics and justify how you made these decisions. And it'll give you a list of that. Once you have that list, say there are things in there that you like or you don't like. My follow-up prompt to that would be, I do not like this, and I would like to replace that with this. Can you reorganize the lesson list and make sure that each topic layers over the next? The second prompt is, okay, now I have all these topics. I want to create an email that's compelling for my audience. Now, when I create that email, I want the reader to be engaged in my email. I make sure I mention in the prompt that I want the reader to want to get the next email, and make sure that at the end of this email, you entice the reader to look forward to the next email. So craft your compelling email using a relevant prompt. Now, if you're already in our Discord server, you would be able to get access to all these prompts, the prompts from this particular episode and all the other ones as well. And if you're a level 2, you'll get the whole playbook to actually execute these. And you'll have to go to aigeeks.co/Discord to get access to our Discord community. There's a lot of training, a lot of blueprints, a lot of ideas for you to execute, and a lot of people that you can meet. So that's the second prompt, is craft a compelling email. And the final one is analyze certain performance. Now, once you have your email nurture sequence going for a certain amount of days, say it's been executing for a month and you've taken 100 people through that particular sequence, you get this data that the journey or the automation will spit out and say, these are the amount of people that opened, these are the amount of people that read it. And you can take that report, put that back into ChatGPT using the code interpreter or a plugin. And if you don't know any of what I'm talking about, make sure you follow me to understand how to use ChatGPT's code interpreter, because it's super powerful, and also how to use plugins using ChatGPT. Because you can take some of your data, analyze the performance, and ask AI to improve it for you based on the market you're in and the audience that you're dealing with. Now, if this is the first time you're listening to this podcast or you've been here before, I am so glad that you're here. Go and check out our back catalog at aigeeks.co, and also tell a friend, because we want to gather all the AI geeks of the world together. All right, until next episode, do what you love what you do. Hey, AI Geek, thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co/Discord. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI geek. Until then, much love.